Justice Robert E. Gordon, and you're watching Tape with Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight. But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're going to watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug.
Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're going to see Rabbi Doug. Oh, everybody talk about Doug.
So welcome to Taped. We are here in Chicago, and I am here with Brad Sandefur. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, sir?
Brad is candidate for Cook County Sheriff, running against Tom Dart, the current sheriff who's running for re-election. He's 62 years old, married for 32 years, 4 children. He's been in the Sheriff's Department working for over 32 years. He was a Marine. He has been in law enforcement in one way or another for over 40 years. He is certified police officer, certified correctional officer, certified academy instructor, certified tactical officer. He was an electronic monitoring investigator at one point. He was a record supervisor, shift commander, for 25 years supervisor and 17 years as shift commander, that is. Been part of the crime awareness program, and he also taught Officer Friendly as an instructor. He has an associate from Oakton College in law enforcement, a BPS, Bachelor of Professional Studies in Criminal Justice with honors from Roosevelt University in Chicago, and a Master's of Science from Liberty University with Criminal Justice and Forensic Psychology with honors also. Good grades, that's a good thing. He also has, he's a doctoral candidate for criminal justice leadership. Today, as we have you on the show, you've chosen to run, and you're running for Cook County Sheriff under the Libertarian Party, though you're an independent, really. First of all, let me ask you a couple things about you and your entrance into law enforcement. How young were you when you said, I want to be a cop? You know, some people say, I want to be a baseball player, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fireman when they're 4 years old, when they're 5 years old. How young were you when you really wanted to go into law enforcement?
3.
3 years old. You really did when you were a little kid. So something you always wanted.
Yes.
What attracted you to it?
I don't know. I always was the nice guy. I always helped people out, and if you want to be in public service, you have a choice. You can be a fireman, you can be a policeman, you can be a social worker. Firemen spend a lot of time in their station, come out when they're called. Policemen are out there all the time. So if you need help, who do you go to? You go to a policeman. And you're available. They can see you driving down the street. You get to talk to people. You get to find out what's going on. So it just seemed a better opportunity.
So, working for Cook County, which is what you work for Cook County, how did you get involved in Cook County Sheriff's Department? How did that realm of law enforcement enter your life?
Well, I was taking various tests. 1988, I'm reading the Sun-Times, and the Sheriff's Department had a help wanted ad in the paper. So I responded to that help wanted ad.
Very interesting. Now, the Sheriff's Department really, in my knowledge of it, outside of forest preserves, really only unincorporated areas are there really beat cops, let's say, where they go out and actually cover residential areas and things like that. Were you ever a beat cop in an unincorporated area in Cook County?
No.
You never did that. So were you missing something in what you wanted to be as a policeman in going into answering that ad? Was that something that you always wanted to do? You wanted to, get called to a house and say, we need your help, officer, and so on? Or did you really want to go into administration and supervision as you did?
Well, when you start, you just want to get the job. You just want to be out there, whatever it takes, whatever you can do to help people. Then, as you do your time, you kind of pick more specifically what you want to do. There are a lot of people that don't want to become supervisors. I was happy to become a supervisor. So that's where things went for me.
So tell us where you are currently. What are you doing now and how long have you been there?
I'm the assistant commander for the transportation unit of the Sheriff's Department.
And what is the transportation unit?
Well, we pick up people on fugitive with warrants, we take people to court, we take them to medical appointments, we back up street units when they need it. Specifically, more often than not, we'll back up electronic monitoring units.
Which is what you were in charge of at one point.
I was never in charge of electronic monitoring, I was just an electronic monitoring
Oh,
investigator.
you were just investigating
I was
for
one
them.
of
I
the
see.
deputies assigned to patrol. So I did patrol, but it was with electronic monitoring.
I see. Tell me, what has been the most challenging part of your career? What part was the scariest or the most challenging that you said, you know, I can meet this challenge and I'm ready to step into it?
Well, it would be this one that I'm doing now, and that's running for sheriff. But why? Because of the previous hard thing to get through, and that's the politics that are involved in the Sheriff's Department. As far back as I can remember, you couldn't get in the Sheriff's Department to the Sheriff's Police if you didn't know anyone. Tom Dart had his hand in some dirt back in 2006, and they factored that out and said, if you want to hire some people illegally, you go to Tom Dart to do it. I've taken the lieutenant's test numerous times, never got promoted. Why? Because I don't know anyone, because I speak my mind. I'm not afraid to tell people you're wrong. I'm not afraid to tell people what I think. I'm not the sweetie, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear guy. I'm going to tell you the truth, and you might not like the truth, but it will always be the truth.
What is your rank currently?
Sergeant.
You're a sergeant. And how long have you been a sergeant?
Since 1996.
Since 1996. So tell me a little bit about the responsibilities of the Cook County Sheriff. I think people see Tom Dart on the news when there's a big investigation or something going on that the county police are involved with. You know, Tom is interviewed and you see him on TV. When the sheriff is on, and that's the only way people really know him. They don't really know what he does during the day, behind his desk, what his responsibilities are. Of course, he's officially your boss, but you don't really have any direct connection to him. Tell me, what does the sheriff do? What's his real job? If you step into the sheriff's job, besides making the changes you want to make in the department, what's your daily job?
If you're the sheriff, your job mainly is administrative. You decide where you want to deploy your troops. You decide who you're going to apply to for financial grants, or how you're going to work with the Justice Department, what programs you're going to put out there to try and divert people from crime, to try and keep them out of jail, to get them mental health services, to work with other departments to lower crime in their area. For example, right now we have a couple of satellite posts in Chicago, because although we do patrol unincorporated areas, that's where the sheriff mainly responds to radio calls. You're the county sheriff. You can work anywhere. You can stop anyone, anywhere. You can respond to anything, anytime you want. And we have a satellite station in River North, which has been on the news a lot lately. Funny how it hadn't been on the news at all till election year. Now it's on the news every other week.
So I know this is probably a question that I covered a little bit at the beginning of the show, talking about your resume a little bit. Tell me, what makes you, compared to your colleague who works in your office, more qualified to be sheriff of Cook County?
Well, first of all, my education. Second of all, my years of experience. Third of all, the wide diversity of jobs that I've done with the Sheriff's Department. I've worked in every division. I've been on the street. I'm still on the street. I've taught at the academy. I've taught recruits. I've taught supervisors. Recruits still come to me and tell me that they feel, in their opinion, I was their best instructor. They still come to me and thank me for what I taught them, because I don't teach the paper crap. I teach what's real. I teach what's going to actually help you out there on the street. And I teach everyone that you have to swallow your pride. You cannot let your ego dictate how you do your police work.
You talked about warrants and things that you've been involved in and things like that. Probably to me, that's the scariest part of the job. We read all the time, you know, someone pulled a gun and started shooting at someone who came and knocked on the door with a warrant in their hands. Have you ever had any confrontations with warrant work that you've done along the way? Anything, you know, really scary? Because I know, to me, that's the scariest part of that job.
No, most of the warrant work I did would have been when I was on electronic monitoring. We were looking for an escapee. I don't actually serve warrants. Someone has a warrant, my unit goes and picks them up. And then we make sure they don't escape and like that.
I see. So tell me, in doing that and everything, is your main lockup? The Cook County Jail? Do you go to the Cook County Jail? Is that your main lockup? That when someone that you would have to serve a warrant on, do they go to Cook County Jail? How does that work, or do they go to a local jail? I always wonder how that works, because Cook County Jail, often you think are people waiting for trials and things like that. They're placed there. How does it work when you're the man on the road and you go and pick up someone with a warrant? What's your responsibility as far as taking them in and booking them?
My responsibility is to just take them to the jail. I turn them over to a separate unit that does the booking and the processing and puts them in jail until they go to court, see a judge regarding the warrant.
So do the Cook County police who pick up people warrants, do they go straight to Cook County Jail when they take them? Or do you go to someplace local? How does that work? Do you work with local law enforcement in the area you're at?
Okay, the sheriff's police will take them to a courthouse, and then they'll either stay there until they get in front of a judge, or my unit comes and picks them up from the courthouse and brings them to the jail.
Transportation unit?
Yes.
Transportation unit.
Transportation unit.
Very good, very good. So let's talk about the Cook County situation as far as the sheriff. You have a lot of things in your plans that if you are elected sheriff that you want to change. What are some of those things? Starting with the most important, what are the things up there that you say, you know, this has not been going right, and if a new sheriff came in who knew what to do differently, or thinks they know what to do differently, this is what I think should be the first things that are changed. What are those things?
Well, the first thing we have to do is get the politics out of the department. Promotions are done politically, hirings are done politically, getting so-called favored positions are done politically, and you get a lot of bad people. I've had a man who was as high as superintendent, which is the third highest rank in the sheriff's department. He couldn't read. I taught him at in-service. I was warned he couldn't read. I didn't believe it. I had each supervisor read a section of the material we were covering. He could not read, but he was a superintendent. Wow. A political hire. We had a lieutenant got hired politically. He couldn't read anything at all. Everyone had to do his work for him, but he was a lieutenant. This is political hiring. It goes back to the thing I mentioned earlier about back in 2006 when Tom Dart was a legislator. And there's another difference. Tom Dart's not a cop. He's never been a cop, never made an arrest, never handcuffed anyone, never had to fight with anyone, has never worked a tier, has never been in a courtroom when an accused individual went crazy. He's not done any of those things. Okay? I've been doing that my whole life. So have several of our deputies, but they don't get opportunities because they don't know anyone or because they irritated the wrong person. You got to get the politics. You want to just, and I am not a politician. I've never been a politician. As I discussed with you before we started taping, I don't know any politicians. One guy came to my house to try to sell me on windmills, and he was the mayor of my town. And that's it. Other than that, I know no politicians, and I don't want to be a politician. I just want to be a cop. I just want to do our best to protect and serve the public. I believe in servant leadership.
Oh, very nice. We're here on Taped, and I'm here with Brad Sandefur, and he is running for Cook County Sheriff, and we'll be back in just a moment.
I am American.
I am an American.
I'm an American. I am an American.
I'm Senator Dick Durbin. You're watching Taped with Rabbi.
Welcome back. I'm here with Brad Sandefur. He is a candidate for Cook County Sheriff on the Libertarian ticket. And how do you choose Libertarian as your party? You know, everybody knows Democratic, everybody knows Republican, everybody's heard of Independence. There's Green and Libertarian. People know these names, but they don't really know about the parties. Does the party have a focus that people say, well, if I vote for Libertarian, they always go in this direction for something? How do you choose the Libertarian Party, and why do you choose the Libertarian Party?
Well, I'm not a politician, as I said, so I have almost no chance of getting into the Democratic thing because I've never been involved in it. I actually met Sean Morrison, the Cook County Republican chairman, and he kind of talked to him, kind of blew me off, and they didn't put any candidates in the primary. And so I was looking for a way to get in because I was tired of what was going on, the lack of respect for our employees while we do all kinds of things to cater to criminals. And I came across the Libertarian Party. They are part Republican, part Democratic, part a little bit their own thing, which makes sense because they're a third party. I like some of what they believe in, such as smaller government, lower taxes, okay? don't bother people if they're not doing things that aren't a big deal, like don't arrest someone because they spit on the sidewalk, even though it's illegal. It's a silly law. And that, of course, that's a minor example. It's just to make a point. But I don't agree with everything the Libertarians do. I am an independent. I went with the Libertarians, one, because I did see some of the stuff that I like, but two, if I ran as an independent, I would have to have gotten 25,000 signatures. It's another political game played in Illinois. They do everything they can to keep smaller people off the ballot so that all your choices are ever the Democrats and the Republicans. And we know that in Cook County, Republicans have almost no chance. The entire state of Illinois is very Republican, except Cook County, which is 40% of the population, so the Democrats control, which is how we passed that ridiculous Safety Act recently.
Tell me about the Safety Act and why you don't agree with it.
Safety Act started out House Bill 3653. It's new laws put in place in Illinois that give more rights, more freedoms to criminals, follows the New York model to a degree, and you can see how the crime has gone up in New York. As of January 1st, everybody gets out of jail. No bond. We arrest you, you walk. Unless it's really, really serious. You have to be very specific criteria to stay in jail. So basically the jails will be empty. 101, 102, out of 102 county state's attorneys are against this. Almost every law enforcement agency is against this Safety Act. It puts in things like now police officers have to take a psychiatric examination every year. But science has already proven after 5 years on the job, you can't pass a psychiatric test to do the job, okay? Because you see so many things, so many horrible, horrible things. You have the no bond, and there are other things. I can't remember all of them right now. I'd have to actually open it up and look at it.
No bond means an I bond instead of for money, right?
Well, there's two ways to, yes, in this case it does, but there are two kinds of no bonds. There's a no bond where you're going to stay in jail because we're not giving you the opportunity to pay bond.
Okay.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, oh, you got arrested? Here, walk. We have examples. I have 10 people that have been arrested numerous times and let out of jail, and they're responsible for over 500 crimes. I have another gentleman who's been arrested 101 times. When he got arrested on the 102nd time, he was driving a stolen car with stolen plates that didn't match the car, had 2 guns and drugs in the car. These are the people we continue to let back out. Now, Timothy Evans and Tom Dart and Kimberly Fox all say, but they're innocent until proven guilty. What they don't do is consider the danger, the future danger that these people represent to the community. And that's always why you stay in jail. You have a bond hearing. If you get arrested for a suspended license, your bond's only $100. So you can get out of jail pretty easy. And then they argue that, well, bail and bond hurts the poor people. No, it doesn't. It hurts the criminal. If you're a poor criminal and you commit a crime, you're going to jail. If you're a rich criminal and you commit a crime, you're going to jail. Your bond will be much higher. If you can afford the bond, great. If you can't, you sit in jail. I had a millionaire, was locked up the entire time. The other reason they did this is because they say people sit in jail for years waiting to go to court. What they don't bother to explain to you is if a person who is not yet convicted sits in jails for years, that's on them. Because you have 120 days to bring someone to trial unless they ask for a continuance. If the prosecutor asks for a continuance, doesn't matter. The 120-day clock continues to run. If the defendant asks for a continuance, the 120 days starts over. But a lot of times they get the continuance just because they believe they're innocent and they're being offered a plea bargain. Well, you got to plead guilty, but I didn't do it. I'm not pleading guilty. So they will get continuances and sit in jail to try and prove their innocence. But eventually, they face the fact, I've got a family to feed, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my house. They'll plead guilty to something they didn't do. That's why one of the things that I presented to you is to pass a law where the prosecution has to present all of their evidence to the defense. The defense has to present all their evidence to the prosecution before you start pretrial negotiations. This is basically a law that's been around since 1963.
I thought that was the law before. I did not know that people were doing that.
That's not the law. The law is Brady versus Maryland, 1963. The court said prosecutors have to present exculpatory evidence to the defense. The problem is the prosecutors get to decide what's exculpatory and what isn't. And then they continue to fight to win. United States for Berger versus United States, 1935. I cannot believe we had to make this clear to our prosecutors. The prosecutor's job is to seek justice, not convictions. Unfortunately, bringing politics back into it, prosecutors get elected or get their judgeships based on their conviction record. Okay, the job is to seek justice. If a person is innocent, They should not have to go to jail just because the prosecutor wants a conviction on his record.
Wow. Wow, it's heavy stuff, heavy stuff. Tell me more about the sheriff's office and things that you think should be changed outside of the things you've already shared.
Okay, well, that's what this lengthy paper is. I will try to go through it. Now, one of the things, I do want to touch on this, because this is one of the issues that would affect the sheriff's department. One of the things that the Libertarians want to do, and they're kind of mad at me because I don't agree with this, they want to legalize all drugs. You want to go out and get stoned, you want to get high, you want to ruin your life, that's your choice. And they call it a victimless crime, but it's not victimless if you have children, if you have family, if you're committing burglaries and robberies, which is what a majority of the home break-ins are done to support drug habits, okay? So it's not a victimless crime. We're never going to win the war on drugs, just like we would have never won the war on alcohol, because you make alcohol in your bathtub, you can grow marijuana in your basement. Some drugs you can manufacture in your garage, like methamphetamines, and they do it. You know, methamphetamines made with kerosene gasoline, horrible, horrible drug. But you're never going to stop it because it's too easy to make it and it's impossible for us to catch someone. So do we need to do something? Yes. Can we regulate drugs? Yes. But it will probably still cost more for you to buy them at the store, like you can go in the marijuana stores they have now and buy a certain amount of marijuana. But the street dealers aren't going to tax it. So they'll just charge a lower rate. And the illicit business where people are getting killed and beat up and chained to walls. I have a video somewhere of people who are actually chained to walls so they can sell drugs out of a little hole drilled into a brick wall. Okay? So I don't necessarily agree with legalizing the drugs, but we have to accept the fact we're never going to win the war on drugs, and we got to come up with a solution for that.
What do you think about marijuana being legalized as a sheriff's candidate? Obviously, for most of your career, it was illegal. All of a sudden, it becomes legal. We have these dispensaries, and people buy it legally and use it illegally, such as in cars and things like that, which makes it more what's available to people who didn't have their dealers to go to or whatever it is. What do you think about that? Do you think that certainly tax-wise for the state of Illinois, it's been a great additional tax resource for the state, but there are downfalls too. What's your personal opinion?
Well, I don't agree with it, but to be clear, the law only allows you to have a certain amount.
Right.
It's 30 grams, 30 grams if you live in the state, 15 grams if you're visiting from out of state, which I don't understand why there's a difference.
Whatever.
But there is. But now you can still be busted if you don't have it in a smell-proof container. The marijuana has to be in a container where the odor doesn't escape. And if it does escape, then you're still illegally in possession of it. So it's a weird law.
It is a weird
It's a weird law. The thing is this, there's no test to show if someone's high on marijuana when you stop them, okay? There's a test, we can do a test on the street to see if you're drunk. I can't do a test to see if you're high. I go, oh, you got bloodshot eyes, your pupils are dilated. It could be for 20 other reasons. So anyone, you're not, it's of course illegal to drive and toke, but that doesn't mean people aren't doing it. They are doing it. A couple of car crashes have already occurred because of it. So although I don't agree with it, it is the law. It is my job to enforce the law. Now we do have discretion, like if I stop you for a speeding ticket, I don't have to write the ticket. And if I stop you and talk to you, I've enforced the law. Okay? I've taken an action, which is what I'm required to do. Now, I need people who know more about the drug wars than I do to sit down with me and tell me a better way to handle this drug thing, because like I said, we're not going to win the war, but we can't legalize all drugs. It'll just make society even worse than it is now.
Another question I wanted to ask you, because it falls in the same realm of things, is cooperation. You know, obviously, when you're in an unincorporated area and there's a local police department across the street where they are incorporated, and your side it's not, there's a lot of cooperation when things go on, when there's a call, when there's an emergency and things like that. What about cooperation with state police? How does it work with the county and the state police in cooperation? Because that's kind of an overlapping jurisdiction. Where state police are there, county police are there, we're unincorporated wherever we are, or on a highway, wherever it is that it runs through this unincorporated area. How do Cook County and state police cooperate? How does that work? especially because you, as the sheriff per se, have to be able to cooperate with the state in that way.
Well, of course, you always want to foment relationships and strengthen them. When it comes to interagency or intra-agency working together, you have liaisons, you find out cases that might be crossing over. Well, we're investigating this case and it might run into your case, so let's work together on it. If you have more resources or resources that we don't have, come on in, help us out. We have 237 or 38 police departments in Cook County, and I've always been an advocate for just a metropolitan department like they have in Las Vegas. But Las Vegas doesn't have nearly as many suburbs as we have, and people want control of their own local police. But that's more politics than enforcement, because the laws are the same for everyone. Law isn't different for a Cook County sheriff than it is for Homewood or Linwood or Arlington Heights. It's all the same.
Oh, great. Well, our time is running down. We have a couple of minutes, and I want to reintroduce you because I want to tell everyone who you are. Brad Sandefur, he is with me right now. He's a candidate running in the November 2022 election for Cook County Sheriff. And Brad, tell me, what is the most important reason that you are qualified to become the Sheriff of Cook County in the state of Illinois?
Number one, because I'm actually a law enforcement officer. I'm not a politician. I've worked in all areas of the court, including in the courthouses, although not directly. I got to be honest with that. There was a man many years ago named Harry Ellman, big-time mafia guy, killed a man named Billy, and then the judge got bribed to find him innocent. So they had a rehearing to see if he could be retried under double jeopardy. And I was involved in that. As a matter of fact, I was the only one allowed to sit with Harry Ellman at the time, which shows how much trust my unit had in me. I was recommended for Tactical Officer of the Year. So the reason is because I'm honest. I have integrity. I care about law enforcement, not politics. Politics doesn't mean a thing to me because that's not my job. Now, do I play the political game, so-called? I do, just to get my budget, to convince the county we need this much money to protect you. But other than that, I don't have to play politics with anyone. I need to work with the other departments so that we're all working on the same thing. We're not butting heads. You asked earlier about cooperation. For instance, right now, if one of my deputies gets involved in a shooting, the Sheriff's Department doesn't investigate that. Either Chicago or the Illinois State Police come and do that shooting investigation to maintain some degree of integrity in the veracity of the shooting.
Very good, very good. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show. I wish you much success in your candidacy for Cook County Sheriff. Brad Sandefur with us today, and I want to thank all of you for being with us. Remember, you can check out our website, www.tvrabbi.com, where you can also see former shows on the web. If you want to email us, info@tvrabbi.com. If you want to email Brad, I'll forward that to him, and I know he'll get back to you personally. And by the way, I asked you something before the show. The most famous sheriff in growing up, because you didn't grow up in Chicago, in Cook County, was Richard Elrod. And Richard Elrod, not only was he a judge eventually until his passing a few years ago of blessed memory, but I taught his grandchildren, and his daughter was the same age as me, and he was probably the most well-known sheriff in Cook County because he was in office for so long in my growing up years. Very, very good. All right. And hope to see you next time right here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom, everyone.
Thank you.
Talking about Rabbi Doug on your TV show. Well, he's the rabbi for me. Anytime you need, you're gonna get married or you're gonna die. Gonna see Rabbi Doug.
This has been a Taped with Rabbi Doug production.